Okay, so I thought I'd record a response to this rather than just giving you written. So I've got on Desmos, I've got the inverse of sine, so graphed, and so remember, inverses are reflected around the equation y equals x. Remember, so we just switch x and y. So they did this, and this is what it graphed, and this is continuous. I mean, wiggles back and forth and goes on forever, just like any sine angle. I can find the sine of any angle, from negative infinity up to positive infinity, right? So there's the infinite number of outputs here. But the trouble with this isn't a function, because if I try to draw a vertical line through this graph, if I can get it, my tool to do this, let's see here. Let's see, let's close that. So see, if I draw a vertical line, crosses twice, so that's not a function. So in order to have the arc sine be a function, we limit the output. So if you look at this, you can kind of see, let me clear all my drawing. You can kind of see, why can't I see well, there we can. You see how the blue graph, the arc sine graph, is limits, and those limits are 1 and pi over 2 on the right, and -1 and negative pi over 2. So that's the possible outputs. So if you think about this as far as the unit circle, I'm only going to get output negative pi over 2, -1, and positive pi over 2, +1. That's the coordinates. So I'm only going to get output in these quadrants here. Okay, and remember, from here it's a negative angle, and here it's a positive angle. So if we take a look at those questions, let me see if I can do this without flashing people's names, so I can keep this public. Okay, so we're asked to find the sine of 7 pi over 4, and then take the arc sine of that value. So let me get a different ink going here. So 7 pi over 4 is down here in quadrant 3, isn't it? And if you look at the unit circle, you'll see, and that's what you did, you had x is the square root of 2 over 2, and y is negative square root of 2 over 2. So the sine of 7 pi over 4 is going to be -7 square root of 2 over 2. But then if the arc sine, because down here, remember, all students or all seniors turn crazy, or all students take calculus. Down here is the sign is negative. Of course, we know that because we see that. So if I do the arc sine of that negative value, I know it's negative. I know that the sign is negative over here. So, and since I'm getting a value, I'm going to get a negative angle. Only negative angles are outputted over here, right? Because it's from negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2. So the correct answer to this is going to be the trigger function, the inverse trig function. I better change this to different ink so you guys can see this. The arc sine of negative square roots of 2 over 2 is actually going to be negative pi over 4, because that's where it's got to come out. That reference angle is pi over 4. So that's what we're going to get for an arc sine. So the 45 sine's positive. 315 is actually an answer. That's, if you look at the unit circle, that is where the arc sine, where the sine is negative root 2 over 2, but 315 is not in the output. It's not in the range of the arc sine. So you got to pay attention to that. And it's tricky. This is not an easy thing. You just got to keep thinking about the output. Now, the same thing, and it may happen on the exam. You may get a question that asks you something like, find the arc sine or arc cosine of the cosine of, let's come up with something. Let's do it in radian or degree measure. How about if I do 100, how about if I go 240? So I know the cosine of 240, well, 240 is way down here in quadrant 3. I know that's, you can look at the unit circle, or you can look at the reference angle and see this is 60 degrees. Cosine is this side. So that's 1/2. So that's negative 1/2. So the cosine of 240 is negative 1/2. But then when I do the arc cosine of that, arc cosine gives me output here. Let me come back and graph arc cosine. Let's see here. Desmos. Let's change this to cosine. Let's change this to arc cosine. So do you see how that, again, that the inverse, full inverse is not a function, so we limit it. And do you see we limit it from quadrant 1 into quadrant 2? Because that's over here. The x's are negative, right? So we're going to get answers from 0 to pi. So if I wanted to think about this, or 0 to 180, so where is the cosine equal to negative 1/2? Let me clear off all this writing for you. So we know we get output here. Cosine's got to be negative over here. We know that reference angle 60. That'll make that negative 1/2. So that's going to be 120 degrees, or if you're going to do radians, 2 pi over 3. Okay. So think about output for these inverse trig functions.